My neighbor, a chain smoker, coughs all day and night. Not just a little cough, fucking earthquakes of phlegm that literally make my windows vibrate. I have to keep my windows closed or smoke comes in, and I'd rather my room have stale ass air than lung cancer air. I have some sensory issues, so when he coughs I want to make myself fucking deaf. Recently I found that if I jerk off during his coughing fits, it's much easier to cope with. When I finish, he usually has finished having his fit. If he's still not done, I say fuck it, time for round 2. Since doing this, every time he starts coughing, I'm instantly horny. Sometimes I'll tease myself and stroke my dick in sync with the coughs. I even once left my curtains open hoping he'd see. I wish this was a fucking joke. Edit, stop sending me creepy cough fetish DMs, no, I do not want to jack off with you. I helped my ex install air conditioning in his home. This was a difficult, 2-person minimum operation and I was a great assistant, I think. He loves his AC, I mean loves it. In San Diego, AC is a luxury. He had it synced to his phone and synced it to my phone, because he had given me keys and liked me to be there when he got home from work. He loved blasting it when he got off work, so when he walked in, he would feel the crisp, artificial air. Many a day I was sitting there and the AC kicked on out of the blue. Then, I found out he had cheated on me. He's also an alcoholic, so he rarely remembers things or thinks logically. Using this information, I fucked with his AC for about a week, because I wasn't working in the early days of COVID and I have a petty, vengeful streak when horribly wronged. I would see he turned his AC on. I would turn it off. He would turn it on. I would turn it off. An hour later I would change the temperature from 65 to 80. He would turn it down and I would turn it up and then turn it off. The next day while he was at work, I would turn it on. He would turn it off. He would get home and turn the temp down and I would turn it off. This pattern of torture remained for a few more days. I tried to think like a defective AC and not reveal my hand and it worked. He never thought it was me. He told me about it later and I just looked concerned. It was me. Age 43. I have no regrets. I enjoyed it. Having said that, I can only come here, because it was me. I'm 44, I have no regrets and I enjoyed it. My unhappy cake day is dedicated to my dad, who was killed by a hit-and-run driver in Kauai. He was a wonderful, kind and loving man and will sorely be missed. There are no words to describe the pain we are going through as a family. Hold your loved ones close and make sure to do whatever you can to make bonds around you with love. I wish I could see him one last time to hold him. Love you forever, Dad. People wanted to know what my confession was. Well, here goes. I honestly didn't know where to post and it just happened a couple days ago. He lost his mind from what we think was a small stroke and was living on the street. I flew out with my sister to see what we could do to help and get my dad home and checked out by a doctor. He wouldn't come home and didn't want to get checked. I will wish until the last of my days that I tried harder to keep him in the car no matter how hard he fought us. I wish he would take the place that we offered him to get off the street. I wish so many things. I wish our last words to each other weren't as awful as they were. I feel like I could have done more and not spent the money on the attorney to get guardianship and instead got him a place. Maybe he would still be with us and the guilt wouldn't be so heavy. I had to do something and he wouldn't come willingly, but this decision is like a stab in my heart that I can fix. In the past, most of the people who fucked me up were black. In elementary school, the girls who bullied me were black. A few years ago, the boy who sexually assaulted me was black. There are a bunch of other instances, but these were the ones that are the most traumatic. I don't mean to be a racist, but after what I have been through, I have a lot of anger inside of me. Is there some kind of shit festival going on that I'm missing? Seen 3 posts in the last day or so. One guy shit his pants, one guy shit on the floor, one guy saw some lady shit herself at work. What's going on, lol? Hey, I'm all for real confessions, but is it theme of the week or something? Week of the chocolate fountain, perhaps? Sorry for the length, not even sure if this is where I should post this. But I feel I need to get it all out. Also apologies for grammar and such. My M32 boyfriend's M29 funeral was yesterday. We had met on Tinder and immediately hit it off. We started talking constantly and even met up in person within the first week of us matching. We would talk about anything and everything and it was amazing. This was the first time I had actually found someone that I could connect to on such a high level. We never went a day without talking to each other through Snapchat even when one of us was super busy with family or work. We both live with family, so whenever we wanted to meet it would be at a hotel or we would make out in my car. He had decided to move out and had explained that when he did then we would be able to hang out more often and for longer times than a simple hookup. I didn't care about him getting his own place, I was happy either way. Neither of us had come out to our families at this point. He explained that his family was very religious and he wanted to take it slow with his family. He had told his sister about me and she had accepted him immediately. Although I shared everything, I never told him that I loved him. Those words are used too frequently and I feel it's a step that needs to be carefully considered before doing it. And I was so close to. We had been together to almost 6 months and by our 6-month anniversary he would be living alone and I would be a regular guest. I wanted him to share his favorite movies and TV shows. Although I never got into horror, I was ready to lay with him and watch anything. On a normal Sunday we were talking like normal and after he left work he stopped responding. I didn't think too much about it because he's not responded before until very later after he knew I'd be asleep but would wish me good night. When I woke up he hadn't opened my messages or responded and I sent another asking if he was okay. That day I spent the morning checking out his other social media accounts to see if there was any updates. In the afternoon I finally received a message from his sister letting me know that he had been in a major car accident and was in the hospital. I was scared but I was finally able to talk to him. We spoke for a bit and I even called him later that same day. We spoke until he was ready to go to sleep. He was still waiting for surgery on his leg. Everything seemed that he would be fine. He was in pain but high spirits. He asked me to call back in the morning. When I called I was too late. They had taken him back for surgery and I had to wait. When I called the hospital directly after a few hours I was told that he was out of surgery and resting but I could call back in a few hours to see how he was doing and maybe get a number for his new room. When I called again I was informed that any updates needed to be shared with his family and I needed to contact his sister. This is when I learned there was a complication and his lungs had collapsed and he was in a medically induced coma while they try to figure out what's going on. He was in this condition for 2 months before he finally let go. These months had been hard for me and the nights that I was told that he might not make it I laid in my bed crying praying that he would make it. I even continued to send him snaps documenting what was going on. I hadn't decided if I would ever let him see them when he woke up or delete them ahead of time. The fateful day came and he passed. I sent my condolences to his sister and steadied myself for the hard day to come. I watched her Facebook for the information and when his funeral date was confirmed I told my work and prepared to go. I let his sister know I was coming. I did not expect anyone to know who I was, but if there had been a question, I wanted us both to be on the same page. On the drive to the funeral it took me the same route I would go to see him and I broke down several times driving. I made it to the funeral home and looked at him laying in his casket before going to the back of the room where I could see his face and sit silently and look at him. It warmed my heart to see so many people there for him and his family. I watched as all these people that I one day hoped I would get to know mourned him and the loss. While I sat and mourned not just him but the lost future that was so close but we had not had the time to share. All of his family and friends spoke and consoled each other while I sat in the back feeling such a deep loss that I had never felt before. After the funeral I followed to the graveyard where they would place his body in the ground. I stood in place right in front of his friends and family and wept. I wasn't paying attention to anyone but know that others had noticed me standing there alone crying looking at his closed casket. While others began to leave I couldn't move, all I could do was stand there. I didn't want anyone to ask me any questions but I hoped that maybe even without knowing the truth, one kind soul there would have acknowledged my grief and consoled me. No one came. I stayed there until they lowered the body down. At this point almost everyone had left. I went to my car and sat and wept and sent his sister a thank you for the service. She stated she did not see me, but that was for the best since she never met me and saved me the trouble of trying to speak. I wished her well and said my final goodbye to her. There was a dinner after the service but I did not feel welcomed. No one knew me, and my one connection to their lives had been severed forever. I was not willing to share with anyone there. This was his secret and I have no right to speak of it to his family or friends. I slowly drove home watching the road in between my tears and parked my car where I opened up Snapchat and sent my final snap to the man that I had fallen for, saying everything I had never had the courage to say before and may never be willing to say again. This is the tragic story of my first love. It was short and probably had no right to have been so painful. I had never been willing to open my heart to someone so much in the past. I didn't know how it would end but didn't think it would be anything like this. I'll never forget what we had and probably will never find another like it. He was the light that enjoyed playing in darkness, while I was the darkness that pretends to be light.